Hello there. Today we're talking about one of the most popular topics in the fitness world, gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time, which is often called body recomposition. Is it even possible? Well, short answer is no, not really. But let me explain why that's the case and how there are technically a few exceptions to that. The key to understanding the issue of recomposition is understanding that anabolic and catabolic processes in our body are global. And just as a reminder, anabolic processes are associated with building new tissue and growth, while catabolic describes the processes of tissue breakdown. It is a little simplistic explanation, but it'll suffice. But anyways, what does it actually mean for us? I think it is obvious to everybody that in order to gain body weight, you need to be in a caloric surplus, so to consume more calories than you burn over time. That's anabolism. In order to lose body weight, you need a caloric deficit, which means you're eating less than you're burning. That's catabolism. Most of you probably also know that protein consumption is usually being associated with building muscle tissue, so anytime you're trying to gain or preserve muscle mass, it is recommended that you pay attention to that. But what is hardly ever said is that whenever you gain body weight, you always gain some muscle mass and some fat mass. And whenever you lose body weight, you always lose some fat and some muscle tissue. Now obviously you can manipulate the proportions quite significantly. A person who has gained 20 pounds of body weight while training progressively with weights, following a healthy diet with good quality protein, has probably gained mostly muscle. And a person who has also gained 20 pounds of body weight while only sitting on the couch, drinking cola and eating pizza, has gained mostly fat. But still, a slight amount of that 20 pounds is gonna be muscle tissue. And when it comes to losing body weight, you can minimize muscle tissue loss by training with the right intensity, eating correctly with good amount of protein, but you'll always lose some. So since you can't gain or lose one without the other, it is even less possible to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Anytime your body weight goes up, you gain some of both, and anytime it goes down, you lose some of both. So that means that your best bet for improving your body composition is usually focusing on one most important goal. What goal should that be? I'm gonna cover that in a minute, but first let me tell you about a few exceptions to what I just explained. There are basically three groups of people who can actually gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Those are 1. Complete novices, totally untrained people who actually have some fat to lose. 2. People who detrained heavily. So if you used to train but for whatever reason you stopped and have lost a bunch of muscle mass and now you're trying to get back in shape. And 3. People who are starting their first cycle or are significantly upping the dose of anabolic steroids. What all these three groups have in common is that they're in a physiological state in which their body is highly responsive to training stimulus and will put on muscle mass very easily, so the body can afford to also lose fat at the same time. But mind you that it is still going to be a very slow process and it won't last for long. Very quickly after you've put on some muscle mass, you'll have to focus on either gaining or losing body weight if you want to continue making decent progress. But what should you be actually focusing on? Well, as you may already know from my other videos, if you're not already strong, and strength is directly correlated with muscle mass, you should always focus on building strength first. People who tend to be interested in body recomposition the most are people who are often called skinny fat. So who have accumulated a bunch of body fat but don't really have any muscle mass. Well, and this is very important, if you're skinny fat, your primary problem isn't that you're fat, it's that you're skinny. Address that first by focusing on building strength and muscle mass. If you still need to lose some body fat after that, okay, you can always do that. But first you need to stop being skinny. And if you don't know how to do that, here's a video for you. Now, the process during which you concentrate on losing body fat is often referred to as a cut. Who should actually try to cut? The list is pretty short. 1. People who are actually obese. It is difficult to give some precise reference point for what obese actually means, The BMI works decently only for completely untrained population, and even then, not always. But I don't think it's really difficult to notice if you've actually become really fat. If you can't see your feet while looking down, that's certainly a good indicator. But keep in mind that influencers and social media have really distorted the idea of what fat actually looks like. Remember that if you have visible abdominal muscles, and I'm not talking about a six-pack, just visible abdominal muscle shape, even barely, even at the slightest, with any lightening, you're not fat by any reasonable definition. 2. Advanced trainees who have accumulated a bunch of excessive body fat in the process of building muscle, which is a close resemblance of the first case. And 3, and this is pretty obscure, people who are engaged in weight class sports and need to cut weight for their weight class. And that's really it. It's not the first time when I say that it would be much better for the population in general if we focused more on developing strength and muscle mass as opposed to getting leaner. That's it for today. Be sure to check out my other videos that I mentioned today and my Facebook fan page. You'll find all the links in the video description. Also remember to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, as it is the best way to help the channel grow. Stay strong, and until next time.